Good afternoon, everybody. It's Randy Hilarski here from Crypto Daily. Today, we're going to talk about a new company that I became an advisor for. It's called SLiC, S-L-I-C. I got really excited. And first, I'm going to go through and tell everybody who I am, and everyone's going to go through and introduce themselves as well. For those of you who don't know, I'm Randy Hilarski. I've been in crypto since 2014. I started getting into Bitcoin in 2011. Been involved in 20 or so projects. I was bunch of ICOs, raised hundreds of millions of dollars. I was involved on the social media side, mostly the marketing. And now I've actually taken a break from crypto and haven't been involved in many projects, but Luciano and Dustin came along and they asked me if I wanted to be part of it. And I was like, absolutely, you guys got a great idea. So Luciano, introduce yourself and tell us why you started SLiC and that cool stuff.
Wow, why we started SLiC? That's a good question. Well, a little bit about myself. Luciano Canzanella, originally from Italy, living in the Cayman Islands and the Caribbean for over 23 years. At the moment, we are stationed in Panama. And my background is information technology coming out from the financial institution. I worked for over 15 years in the financial industry as an engineer. And my involvement to crypto started towards the end of 2015, very lightly. And as the time progressed, I got more and more involved. And myself and Dustin, we've been friends forever. And we were talking constantly. And when I knew that Dustin was involved as well in crypto, I asked him, I said, you better come down here to Panama. The crypto space here is very much alive. So at the time he was in Central America, and I let him tell his side of the story, but he moved here and we started our project with something a little bit different, which Dustin is going to touch base in a little bit. And then as we went along, we discovered that we need to be at the baseline of the ecosystem, which is actually the mining part, which is basically the structure of the entire, cryptocurrency structure. And as you can see, especially with Bitcoin, with our miners, we don't have Bitcoin. You don't have a blockchain. I mean, yes, you can have a blockchain, but the coin itself is not minted. So we decided to start with this company called SLiC. And the name SLiC, it is actually the technology that we use. It's just an acronym, a single-phase liquid immersion cooling. So we concentrate ourselves mainly on mining, but using liquid immersion technology in order to cool our equipment. That's basically how the company was developed about a year and a half ago.
All right, thank you, Luch. Okay, Ian, you're up.
Sorry about the dog. He loves crypto.
It's the mascot of the team. Don't worry.
Ian Gilmour, based in the Cayman Islands. I've been blessed to meet the team through Dustin. Joined the team about 3 months ago. Very excited about the entire business model. My background is I'm an ex-banker, worked for the likes of Deutsche Bank, did large stint with HSBC, I've traveled the world with them. And before I joined SLiC, I was working for PwC and IBM in the Middle East, but in the Cayman Islands, working on blockchain since 2018. And I'm working with the guys now. I'm effectively signed on to become the Chief Information Officer. Sorry, not the COO, and to help the company realize its strategic potential in a number of different, very disruptive ways. The immersion cooling was new, not something I've been familiar with, but also the way that they've designed the data center concept, the agility in which they can move their data centers around the world, and the fact that they're addressing some really key markets, some areas that I've worked in professionally before, in particular edge computing, artificial intelligence, and rendering. So very excited to be part of the team, and I think they've got a really fantastic future ahead of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of things I got in for too. When they started telling me about rendering and then they could swap from mining to rendering, I was like, this one, it's not just crypto. They're thinking outside the box. So when the market is dipping, when we have another 2018, you get excited. you know?
Yeah, no, I think the agility of this company is something that's really attractive to me. I don't feel that we're going to end up going into any technology or strategic dead ends. I feel that the company is really well designed. My role is really to help get the finance sorted and make sure that operationally we're set up for success. And as I say to everybody, it's not a question of is SLiC going to make money? It's a question of how much money SLiC's going to make, and that's what really gets me pumped about it.
Very cool. All right, we're up to Dustin now. Dustin, you're one of the founders. Tell us about yourself.
Hi, Randy. Dustin Jackson here from the Cayman Islands. I'm a certified Microsoft certified educator, IBM Blockchain Foundation developer. I actually started out in crypto teaching kids in Honduras how to mine Bitcoin using Raspberry Pis and RBox miners that you could buy off of Amazon. In those days, it was really inexpensive to and really didn't require a lot of power to mine Bitcoin. And in Honduras, with the electricity so low, we were actually able to pay the electricity costs of mining with mining itself. We can no longer do that, but well, we can, but it just requires a warehouse full of miners in order to do it. But in our case, tanks and miners inside liquid immersion. I've been in the technology field for, over 15 years. I've worked at several law firms in the Cayman Islands as technical support, and very excited about crypto, blockchain, and all the wonderful things that we can do with it. Our original idea was to create a coin based on the Cayman dollar that would actually give a reward back for spending it or for just using it. So every transaction would give you something back. And then it evolved into SLiC, although that project is still on the shelves. SLiC is our main project at this point.
That's good. It's always good to have alternatives to move back forth with. Maybe this could be part of the SLiC project in the future, the Cayman coin.
We actually intend to. We have several projects that we have kind of put a little bit on the side because we wanted to build the infrastructure first, like the baseline, us having the structure of the database. But we have at least 3 projects that we have set aside. Then as we progress with the data centers, we might bring those alive again.
Well, I have to say that the SLiC MVP, or what we say in our business, is pretty strong. It's stronger than a basic MVP. So, Ian, could you give us a general overview?
Yeah. So, using the immersion cooling technology is a very important aspect of the business. The guys are heavily involved now in the entire manufacturing process. We've got preferred suppliers for our portable data centers, for the tanks, the immersion liquid itself, which, as a huge surprise to me, has a shelf life of 25 years. So we treat it as a capital expense. The economics are extremely strong for immersion cooling. Legacy data centers using air-cooled technology typically have PUEs of north of 1.2, 1.15. We're in a PUE environment where we're less than 1.05, which is world-class in terms of the cost of cooling. The manufacturer that the guys is working with is amazing. The technology is tried and tested, and we're ready to scale and take this technology out into the mass market. The other aspect of the technology that's very exciting is, for me, is the fact that it's a 2-pronged approach. We've got Asic mining using the immersion tanks. We can run up to 540 miners in PDC, which is effectively two 40-foot containers. So we've got a lot of hash rate that we can put into these things. And achieve some really impressive statistics because number one, the cost of cooling goes down, which is a big part of the energy equation, and we can overclock these things as well. So from a power point of view, it's a very efficient build. But the guys have also taken it another step further. And using the models that we've built, we're also able to drive exceptional performance when it comes to GPU processing. So we're not necessarily focused so much on GPU mining. We would use that as a background way to generate revenue, but using the immersion cooling and the portability of the tanks and the PDCs themselves, we're able to actually start addressing the edge computing market, where we can work with the latency challenges that you see with some of the big data centers, such as AWS, etc. We're able to actually shift our data centers and move them much closer to our customers, so they're a minimum of 1 or 2 server hops away, which helps reduce the latency effects and the server timeouts that we get with large file formats, which typically you find with render requirements and also with deep learning, machine learning. So if you combine the two, the fact that we've got this ability to reduce the overall power cost, and the fact that we can actually we can lift and shift our data centers very easily using established supply chains, means that the company is able to address some of the real challenges that traditional data centers have, as well as really drive exceptional performance when we're mining. So overall, it's an amazing combination, and that's what's really attracted me to the project.
So one thing that I noticed when the guys came to me, we were sitting down having dinner and we were discussing the project. They mentioned geopolitical problems and how if there's an issue in a country, say we have an issue here in Panama, and say that we have 2 PDECs, at the port mining right now, and that we know there's geopolitical issues in Panama. You can pick those 2 up, put them on a ship, and go deposit them in Jamaica.
You got it.
You got it. That's basically what we wanted to do.
Yeah, it's not even geopolitical, it's macroeconomics as well. If we find that we can get amazing, at the moment, hydro is an extremely attractive power option up in upstate New York, where the guys are already actively mining. If we want to move into Canada, if we want to move into some of the other big hydro markets such as Switzerland or Norway, we've got wind markets that we can walk into in Scotland. Wherever the power supply is extremely reliable, low cost and green, gives us other economic incentives, and of course tax as well. We can move around to make sure that we maximize the returns based on whatever tax regime is coming along. So the fact that these PDCs are able to move around and take advantage of various seismic shifts that are going on, notwithstanding the current crisis with C19, means that they are not going to end up in a dead end and end up losing revenue because of a fixed asset that's ended up losing money. We can lift and shift. And I think as well, the fact that the data center design is such that we can actually replace the hardware as well, our hash rate. We can move from S17s to S19s. We can change the GPU cards around very easily. We're not using established rack technology. We've actually got bespoke builds that are going into these tanks, and we can move our hash rate around as well. So very flexible. I've called it massively scalable because of the modular way in which it will build. So, but just really opened your eyes into what the new type of data centers are going to start to look like over the next 5-10 years.
Yeah, instead of like this one right behind me here in Panama Pacifico, it's this big concrete mega structure.
Yeah,
and it's just set.
That's the Kia Network, those Mexican company. Yeah, I believe I know exactly what they are.
I did a tour of it, and they're not mobile. They can't move
they're not mobile. They got
they're not mobile, and they're not in liquid immersion either.
They're not in liquid immersion. Thank you, Dustin. They got a $50 million concrete cube sitting out there. I know that they serve a large things, but even we notice even with the big 4, and I'm talking about Azure, AWS, Google, IBM. When these guys are coming and set up a data center, they have fixed structure, and Ian knows because Ian used to work with the Azure team before. When they do this type of infrastructure, they're very difficult for them to shift into mobile technology. Now I start seeing IBM and Dell doing a little bit of containerized data centers, but I haven't seen personally any of the other big guys doing that. So we believe that we have something unique. And now with power of putting the crypto mining inside as well with the GPU rendering, video rendering, deep learning and everything, now we have a winning combination. Actually, this started a long time ago with us as a plan B. We always thought it as we're starting as a money company, but then when we were talking to the initial seed investor, there was, well, what happens if crypto mining dies and goes to the crapper? Excuse the word. So we start thinking, it says, okay, we need to develop a plan B for our investors. So, and we always say, okay, we have the infrastructure, we have the container, we have the tanks, we have the liquid, we just need to shift the equipment into something that we can do for the future. And during our exploration time and working for the last year, we met with some incredible people that give us the opportunity to marinate plan A and B together, and we came out now with this structure that we can actually do them simultaneously at the same time.
All right, great. We kind of went through a couple of my questions there, but I want to come back to why immersion cooling and overclocking is so important. And if Dustin, since you're the one who sets the mining equipment up, could you go into that a little bit? Why that is so powerful compared to someone who just has a server farm and just running GPUs?
Certainly. Actually, it's a combined effort. We're all hands on deck in SLiC, so everybody sort of plays a role. I kind of end up fine-tuning and trying to get the most out of the miners. Luciano's extremely involved in setup and procurement, and as well as some hands-on maintenance, as surgery, as he likes to call it. But it's important because there's these things use an incredible amounts of electricity and thus produce an incredible amount of heat. When you're air cooling, there's particulates in the air and stuff that can attach to boards and everything like that. And if you want to go beyond manufacturer specifics of temperatures and stuff, it's really hard to do that because you end up getting burned in from dust particles and these type of things. Whereas you stick it into a non-conductive electric liquid, such as what we're using, the liquid immersion technology, we're able to overclock the crap out of these things, and in doing so, not harming the equipment itself. It's basically sitting in liquid. It's tremendously cool. By doing so, we're able to reduce the amount of electricity that's being used to mine. And this is due to fans. You know, it takes fans to move the air through the miners, and those fans use up like 40% of your electricity costs are going into fans. So if you could eliminate that, then you're overclocking, you're mining extremely efficiently. So it's now the technology has been around for quite some time. It's just amazing that it's just now being applied to cryptocurrency mining, which is 10 years old. So it's quite unique.
All right, cool. Now this question's for Ian. Ian, renewable energy sources. I know you mentioned hydro. Why is SLiC focusing on renewable energy, and what are the benefits?
So I think we all are committed to a sustainable future anyway at SLiC. I think it's actually part of the culture of the firm. But in addition, even though the oil price has collapsed, etc., we're still seeing tremendous decreases in price per kilowatt hour in terms of power from renewables. Hydro has always been an extremely efficient, from a capital intensity point of view, power source, and we're already benefiting from hydro power in our data center in upstate New York. But I'm also in the sort of solar and the biogas field as well, and we're seeing tremendous improvements in capital expenditure and the technology that's being used to drive those technologies, plus battery technology is getting cheaper and cheaper. I can see a date in the future where we will be able to get sub 6 cents a kilowatt hour on renewables reliably in the not too distant future. And that, I think, then drives SLiC into a 100% renewables power supply. We're not quite there yet, but it's partly it's the culture of the firm, and it's partly, I think, a general drive in the data center business anyway is to be green. Google either derives by their power, their PPAs, or either through wind farms, or they offset using carbon offsets. I think the entire data center marketplace in the next 5 to 10 years will be renewables powered anyway. So we're part of a general trend, but we're all passionate about protecting the environment and making sure that as we do mine out these new virgin bitcoins and so on and so forth, that we're actually doing it from a very pure power source or renewables power source. So it's a very important part of the business model. It's not necessarily just about profit. It's about a mindset.
Okay, great. While you're talking there, you mentioned virgin Bitcoin, and from a person that's big into privacy, I understand the power of virgin Bitcoin. And Andreas Antonopoulos discussed this. I think it was about 6 months ago. He tweeted about tainted coins. And tainted coins are coins that have been used by criminals for illegal activities. And if you are downstream from one of those tainted coins and you receive tainted Bitcoin, people are worried that in the future, the authorities can go after you too, because those coins were associated with a criminal activity. Now, what SLiC is producing, the new Bitcoins that are mined, are virgin Bitcoin. Luciano, could you go into that a little bit? And then I also want you to talk about rendering and why that's important.
Right. Yes. The virgin coin, it's very, very important. Matter of fact, we have in the same location where we host at the moment, there is, I cannot mention any name, it's undisclosed. We have a customer, there's not ours, but from the facility, and he's actually a bank. And these guys went into the business, and I spoke to their IT engineers, and they set up exactly the structure of mining for the bank for one purpose and one purpose only, to be able to mine virgin coins, to be able to sell those coins to their customers at a premium price. So in effect, that is what we do ourselves. As miners, and if you guys need, we have to use some of those coins to pay for our cost, like electricity, salaries, and other expenditures, equipment, and so forth. So it is our job also as a miner trying to keep as much of those coins without using them for other things. So the moment they start using, they start getting into from one wallet to another, and they go. So at the moment, a virgin coin is basically the moment it gets going through the pool, we're going through the pool with the mining, and then it goes straight into our wallet, and it's in a secure location, offsite, multiple signature keys, and so forth, multi-sig. But again, this is the importance of a coin. If these coins have no history, they're extremely valuable, and we see those to be able to sell them on the market also in the near future.
Especially maybe in a couple of years from now.
Yes,
those coins could have a maybe
they are going
40%.
they are going to be more valuable, especially
Absolutely.
when it comes from a mine. And we can prove it because the history of a coin can be proven on a blockchain.
Absolutely.
You do a chain analysis, you know exactly where the Bitcoin is originated. And if you an history of a coin and then just be mine it, let's call it virgin, you will see that there is no history. So that's your proof already right there in so to speak.
It's no difference than in gold and silver. You have a gold and silver coin, one that's uncirculated is much more valuable than a coin that's been circulated.
There you go. Exactly. Now you say you were asking something about the video rendering?
Video rendering, because this is something that I've never heard discussed in crypto before, ever.
Right. As you know, when we mine, there are two types of equipment you use. The Asic, then we use straightly to mining the SHA-256, which is the algorithm that mines Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. And then you got the GPUs, which can mine all the other scripts and all the other algorithms, then you can do multiple coin. we did the calculation, especially Ian with his price modeling and everything they did. We did the calculation, and we found out that at the current moment, with the electricity price in the current market, that GPU mining is not very valuable for us. So we were battling with this idea: should we concentrate more on ASIC instead of GPUs? But during all our discussion, especially with one of our partners, we figured out a way that we can put to use all the GPU powers that we will have and that we have already to other projects. So with one of our partners, and then they were in the medical field, they discovered that especially with medical research, like cancer, for instance, 60 to 70% of the funding for this research, they're going to big data centers. And I don't want to mention any name, but we all know who they are, okay? So they say, why don't we redirect this power from all the miners into those projects to start with? And we find out as we're doing research, then the video rendering arena is extremely profitable. So we decided to jump ourselves in this field by offering video rendering services with all the GPU. Now, what we're doing, we're actually flipping the model. We use mining as a downtime. So we're using more video rendering to make money to go after client. And when we say after client, we are agile. We are looking large video rendering for, I can say, architect, movie studios. We can talk about the video games. There is a lot of esports later coming out into the field. And the ability of us to shift with this container, we can move as close as possible. As Ian was mentioned that when it comes to video rendering, there's a lot of latency that you have to take in consideration. So that's our power. And of course, using the same GPU by beefing these machines up with a little bit more CPU power and memory, now we are getting into the arena of artificial intelligence and deep learning. So we can use, and we discovered that there are several players into this market. So we basically, by looking at the numbers and all the calculation, we discovered that we can do both. And even if the crypto market goes to a low trend and we're not making any more money, even with the ASIC, we can very well replace the ASIC and replace them with GPUs to continue mining and to continue. I say mining, we're mining data if we actually really want to look at it, but we have a structure, we have the liquid, we have the tanks, we have the cooling devices, we have all the evaporators, we can very well continue. So with this, we have a fail safe. Then our business is not at jeopardy. If you look at right now with the halving and the capitulations, most miners, they will have to shut off. Especially for all the people who have a first generation like S9 and all the old machines, you're going to see a lot of miners, especially small people, then they'll have to shut off their machine because they cannot just going to make any profit, and they actually going to mine at a loss. And that's what we also saw in the last couple of weeks. We saw the difficult adjustment because a lot of the miners, when the price dropped, they had to shut off. That's why we saw that 16% of mining difficult adjustment. That was a result of some miners shutting off. And we're gonna see more and more as we approach with the halving. Like right now, we have the first two half coming up is Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin and BSV. They're gonna happen 1 month before. I've been reading a lot in the message. You're gonna see a lot of power being shifted by those into Bitcoin. So the hash rate is gonna drop on the Bitcoin Cash because it's gonna be less profitable and everything. And then 1 month after that, it's going to be Bitcoin. So you'll see a lot of miners slowly shutting down. Most miners, they cannot just shut down in one go. You might see a month or two after that because they have contracts, they have warehouses, they got leases and everything. But you're going to see starting probably all the way to June, July, you're going to start seeing a lot of mining operations, smaller ones shutting off.
Well, that's going to happen. We can't stop it.
Actually, Randy, yes, the reason they're shutting down is because they're air cooled.
They can't compete.
They're cooled. So our immersion technology we can take even an old one, a first generation machine, strip everything out. So no more fans, no more air conditioners. As Dustin said earlier, all the fans and the air conditioners and the cooling device and the big fan, those are all extra amount of energy that you're going to use. So by having them in liquid immersion, we are able to continue use this machine even past the huffing. And that's what I'm hoping for this huffing to come as quickly as possible, because we want to test all these. We have a lot of first gen machines that we want to put to the test with these and just overclock them to their max of the capability in order for us to continue mining.
Well, I foresee an opportunity where you guys go into the market and start buying up all these second.
Believe me, we've been already thinking about this. Matter of fact, a new addition to our team today just happened with the gentleman that came from another company. He's going to help us with procurement. He's a broker that came to us from another company, and he's going to help us procure a lot of equipment. So you're going to see us going probably after some old equipment just to put them in liquid immersion, and still using the S17 and the M20 and so forth. But we already have old gen, so instead of just throwing them away or trying to sell them to places like Venezuela, Kazakhstan, or any other place, we're trying to push as much as we can. And we'll see. I mean, it's not an exact science at the moment, but we have that capability.
Well, that's exciting. So let's talk about the money.
Yes.
Ian, Luciano, you guys hit this one. Talking about the Reg D and the Series A that you're pursuing for the company. I've actually never been involved with a company that actually made it this far. Most promised it or thought about doing it, but they never actually did it. So tell me, how are we going to do it?
Go ahead, Ian.
So we, one of the benefits that SLiC's got now is that we've got a couple of ex-bankers involved. So myself and we have another advisor who's ex-Morgan Stanley. So I'm ex-Deutsche Bank, ex-HSBC. So this is within my sweet spot in terms of taking a financial proposition and making it very attractive to institutional investors is something that we've been working very hard on. It's not easy. It takes a lot of money with lawyers. The fact that we're incorporated in Bermuda is a huge benefit to us. There's a lot of hard yards the guys have already undertaken in Bermuda. We still have another 2 or 3 months of hard work ahead of us, but by the end of the second quarter of 2020, our Reg D application will have been submitted through our legal counsel, and we will be able to kick off our Series A through a distribution channel called Blockchain Triangle in Bermuda. And that will give us access to 60,000 high net worth and institutional investors across the United States, and in fact wider afield, because we're effectively subscribing or complying with the gold standard of securities regulation with the SEC. We're very confident about our ability to market that prospectus globally with no legal blowback. So we're not going to be one of these firms that ends up in the news for all the wrong reasons, because the guys have committed to spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on professional advisors, lawyers, accountants, etc., and quite a lot of compliance work as well. So the advantage of this is obvious, but to get there is an enormous effort. I would say that 25-30% of the capabilities of the firm are directed solely to this venture. But on the flip side, what it does, it provides us with access to some very sophisticated investors who can help us scale from not just a Series A, but all the way up to hopefully up into sort of, the IPO territory if we're really successful. So it is extremely hard work. I'm working 12, 14-hour days with the guys just to sort of keep up with the current workload. The workload's just about to double. So we're all working
from home. We're constantly in call with each other. Yeah.
The weekends used to be enjoyable, but I spend more time with these guys than I do with my wife and kids. But the hard work is going to pay off, because the advantage of basically being registered under the Reg D is that we have to comply with a very stringent set of standards. we're obviously going to be governed by the securities regulator in the United States. So we've got to make sure that we've got an extremely professional and fit for purpose capability in-house to be able to maintain that and take it forwards. And that overhead is not something that many firms can afford, and sometimes don't even know that they've got the expertise to do it. So SLiC is actually, from that perspective, is differentiating itself again in the sophistication of its financial engineering and its offerings. So our PPM, when it comes out, will be very attractive to firms that want to get into the asset class that we work in, which is the data center asset class. And at the moment with C19, you'll see that many firms in this space have got stellar valuations whilst the rest of the market is falling away. So we're obviously the C19 pandemic is terrible news, but for us, it actually illustrates another aspect of our business model, is that we're sort of right place, right time as well. So, the Reg D and the Series A are I think, again, testament to the appetite that SLiC's got to, put in the hard yards and make sure that we're a really professional, fit for purpose company.
And I mean, unfortunately, it's if you're looking at Randy, you've been in many, startup company, who's especially now with the C19. If anybody starts a company right now and they're trying to raise some seed capital to start a project, it's going to be extremely difficult. So a lot of people, they're first up, they don't know what to do. The market is what it is. They're printing money out of the FinEd and everything. So even with our partner blockchain, we discussed this internally, and he was very, very strong with his strong message. He said, any company that is already set up and is running right now will have an advantage towards the one that start coming into the market at the moment. So even though that we're just about to close our seed round, we have raised a certain amount of money. We're talking in the six figure. We have raised 76%, 77% of our raised capital.
Well, our earmarks went up last week, so we're into the last 20% of the round. We had a top up from one of our original investors, and the round has been a success to date, which sets us up very nicely for Series A, because success begats success. So SLiC's had a really good fundraising round, which from my perspective makes my job a lot easier, because the last thing you need is a round to fail and try and go into the next round trying to make that a success. So we've got a very strong foundation from which to grow the company through the rest of 2020.
All right, guys, I think that's enough for today. Let's get this out there in social media and published, and people can follow us at SLiC. Is it SLiC International?
No, SLiC.io.
SLiC.io is the website, and then from there you can click on all of our social media channels.
Yeah.
I manage the social media channels, so if anybody wants to private message me on LinkedIn or anything, feel free. I'm always open to discussion. YouTube, all the crypto channels, Library, Steam, Hive, all the ones that nobody's heard of, but the crypto people have. So you can find me there. We're under every rock. So just get to know us and follow SLiC. It's going to be an important company in the coming years. I think you're going to hear a lot about us at the end of 2020 and then going into 2021. It's going to be a very exciting time. And you guys got any parting words before we go?
No, thank you very much, Randy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, that's it.
Great
We're
questions.
probably going to have to jump in a few other calls after this, but let's get going.
All right, great. I'll get this published to Crypto Daily this week, and hopefully we'll get a lot of excitement building.
Thank
Wonderful.
you, Randy.